money, we talk about business, we talk about really all the things that are associated where the end product can be money. Yeah, but it's not what you think it is, because everybody's chasing the money, but really it's the adding the value that really makes the difference. And people who tune in every week, you start to get the smell of that flavor. Now, I've got a very special guest for you today who went from nearly going bust to over £1 million in 12 months. So I'll introduce you to him very shortly, as you can see him on the screen already. But first of all, I want you to comment so I can see who you are. So just comment, where are you watching this from? What is going on for you? The sun is out right now in the UK. Where are you? Are you in the UK? If you're in the UK, whereabouts are you in the UK? Yeah, let me see what you think. You might even want to comment what you think about the Europe Super League thing that everybody's going crazy over. I mean, I don't know what the hassle is. What's all the hassle? What's all the resistance? Here's what it is. So, and by the way, we got an announcement. I got some announcements for you. The first announcement is, if you want to get your hands on some well sought after real life merchandise, so that's the entire brand, by the way, all the different companies that are under the brand, there's all different things. Yeah, good to see you, Connor. Yeah, all you need to do is you need to share this on your timeline. So share it, like Andy's going to share it on his timeline right now if he's not already. And then tag 10 people. That's all you got to do if you're watching this. Yeah, to be in a chance at the end of this show, we're going to call on people who have hit that criteria. Now, if you're in the real life tribe, by the way, you got to tag 10 people in the tribe and 10 people out of the tribe as well. And then we will do that, but we'll select the winner at the end. So guys, tell me when you have shared it so we can give you a shout out as well. Because I tell you, this episode is going to blow your mind. Why? Because it combines money. So if you want money, put hashtag money. Combines business. So put hashtag business if you're interested in how to set up businesses and be running businesses and the operating kind of goings on of that. And also put property, hashtag property, if you're interested in property. So we talk about money, business, and property in this one. So put the hashtags for the ones that you're interested. Hey, Linda, thank you. Awesome. We like to speak to people across the waters. Yeah, fantastic. So let's do our introduction for this week's Money Monday panelist, who has, so for when I first seen Andy, I wasn't even sure if he was interested in what was going on in the room. The first time I met him was actually one of our 2-day trainings that we were doing on property investing, and he didn't look interested at all. But since then, he has been working on his property business, growing his property business. He's also been working on his businesses, that he has had and sold on, which we're going to talk about, and also his new businesses that he's creating and building his wealth through. So you're going to hear all about this over this coming episode. So any questions that you have, put them in the comments now. But as you're going to hear from Andy in a moment, he's going to tell a little bit about himself. Then you're going to see what are the areas that I might want to ask questions regarding to. So thank you so much, Andy Matin. Yes, Andy Matin, isn't it?
That's it, sir. Andy Matin. Good evening. Nice to see you, Mark. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Good evening.
Yeah, good. So thank you for being here, and thank you for coming along and wanting to share your wisdom and being so free and open to talk about anything. So that's a cool thing, guys. So whoever's watching here, Andy says he's open to answering any question. It's not anything he is not willing to talk about. So give us a little bit of insight on you, Andy. Who is Andy? Where's Andy from? How did Andy get up to where he is right now?
Oh, big questions here, straight out the block. Mate, so look, Andy, effectively, very humble sort of upbringing myself, sort of grew up in London, in southeast London. And sort of started professional career, got into a estate agency, when I was early 20s, actually. It was the first sort of real job I had. Always had sort of aspirations from a young age to be in the property industry, to sort of own property. Always sort of dreamed of having a portfolio and that sort of thing when I was younger. We didn't really have sort of too much sort of direct inspiration, I suppose, sort of in terms of sort of people that are close to me that I could look up to initially. So I thought the estate agency was, starting in lettings was a good angle for me to get into, and yeah, thrived in the sales environment. My dad's a black taxi driver. There was a time where I was actually going to be a black cabbie. I was doing the knowledge of London for a little while, and then sort of fell into sales. Really fell into the property market. I never looked back. Loved the estate agency, loved property ever since. Done really sort of well in my career while I was an employee, and then made the brave step when I was 25 to start my own agency. And I mean, wow, what an experience! A fantastic sort of chapter and journey in my life, and taking that sort of risk and starting my own thing was exhilarating. It was scary, and all the things that you would expect. And then fast forward we're on eight or 9 years later now, and now full-time property investor, developer, coach. Successfully sold the agency a few months back, which is what you can see in the notes scrolling across your screen. And I've just had a fantastic career, very appreciative, very grateful, and a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and a lot of learnings. But very, very happy with what I've achieved so far. But in many respects, only just getting started.
Good, awesome. So you said you took the step to go into business, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So you started that when you were 25.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you've been doing that for 30 years now. So
the hairline would agree with you, mate.
Yeah. So you said that was like 7, 8, 9 years ago, right? So like, number one, why? So you say, fell in love with property. So why property? Why do you love property so much?
It was just a really, as far as I was concerned, it was a really secure and sort of, exciting asset class. I always looked at successful people, and they all seem to have the same thing in common. Like, they all seem to own property, or they have to have some sort of control of property. And I always sort of looked at these kind of big. I could see Canary Wharf, which is where I work now, but I could see that from where I grew up in Greenwich. And I was just all very inspired by the real estate of the area. So I don't know, just always, I suppose from a young age, something that just seemed very lucrative and very, very aspirational. So property was just, so it was all I really had in mind, at a certain point in life.
Yeah. And, you just reminded me, because when I first left school, I was very much on the tools, doing all the building work, laboring jobs, all of this kind of stuff. And it's only recently, again, I've started to fall in love with the detail again. Because before I got very high level, just running the businesses. But now I actually said to one of our guys, I was like, hey, listen, is there anyone on our sites laying bricks? I want to lay some bricks. just randomly, I was like, is there anyone laying bricks anywhere? I just want to go and lay a few.
Yeah.
I want to know if you've got the skill or the trowel, So I got this love, and the construction business is growing, booming. Going into these big projects. I mean, our ambition is we want to build a bridge. I want to build a bridge. That's where we're going with it. So that's why property. So then you were in property, or you had this love for property and estate agency. So then business. So why business? What was it about business?
Business was just, for me, something that I was just always inspired by. Like when I was young, like, you used to sort of, you had the vision of the city, sort of, suits, and you see just the city of London. I said my dad was a black cabbie, so he'd show us around, he'd give us tours, and I always used to sort of, when you used to get into the city of London, and you used to sort of see the finance and just you could just sort of feel the wealth and the success, and I always was just very inspired by sort of that route into sort of what I would consider at that stage success. And Canary Wharf, as I mentioned before, is an area that I work now, but I remember the first time I got there, and just the professionalism and just the inspiration, of, as I said, the big banks there, the towers, and it just got me, it just got me. And always sort of, and that was the decision where, I decided that business was going to be something that I wanted to do. And, it kind of fell in that order: property and then business, kind of hence why I started as an agent and, learned the ropes a bit. and then the aspiration for my business kind of, sort of followed from there, really.
Yeah. So, what was your view of business when you were at that stage of like where you were inspired and all of that stuff that you just explained, or it may be that, but because what I want to ask you is, what was your view before you went into business of like what it looked like, what it would take, versus when you got into business and you started to see how, how real business works? What was the difference? Was there a contrast? Was it exactly what you thought? Like, let's start with how you seen it before you got into it, and then tell us how it actually worked out.
It's a great question. You're probably going to laugh at this answer, but business for me was just like Richard Branson, like Virgin Airlines. All the air hostesses in the red in the red kit, and just owning your own island. And like that's I suppose that sort of entrepreneurship is what really sort of got me excited, and then from then it's just other sort of, I suppose, business people really kind of inspired me from there, and read a lot of autobiographies at that time of my life. Alan Sugar, I used to see him on TV a lot with The Apprentice, and that kind of whole, I suppose, corporate model is slightly maybe misguided, misplaced, but that was, I suppose, the dream, and that was the thing that really kind of got me into thinking, they're the sort of footsteps, they're the sort of role models that initially I looked at. What was it like in contrast? Totally different. And I took the plunge to start my own business, and I think the thing that I had a great work ethic and as I said, I take a lot of inspiration from a lot of places. So I was very inspired. So I had good energy, good ethic, and it got me so far. But it was certainly not the certainly haven't got my own island yet, or my own airline. And actually, it was then the daily sort of the hustle, the bustle, the grind, the excitement around doing deals and finding clients, and it quickly got exciting for sure. And I was enjoying the the hustle, and the lifestyle that sort of come with it. Certainly was a lot harder than I anticipated, but it also in many ways it was so much more rewarding than I could ever have imagined. Because it's not just about life's not just about the destination, right? It's about the journey, and so the journey for me has been incredibly rewarding, and I've been very, very grateful for the experiences it's afforded me.
So what was some of the roadblocks or the challenges that you ran into that you weren't expecting when you went into business?
I think the biggest thing probably was maybe sort of lack of knowledge, I suppose. You go into it with a view that you think it's going to play out a certain way, but I kept hitting stumbling blocks of what information and what knowledge I needed to sort of help me evolve and go to the next stage. And then I suppose that comes into the second thing I'd say, which was, scaling the business at the time was, I had a lot of challenges around scale, which I don't think is that uncommon. So, trying to constantly grow and keep your team happy and, keep the business, profitable, but also, trying to scale it at the same time. And, when I set the business up, it was just myself. I was a sole director, sole shareholder, had a fantastic team that founded the business, with me. And, we just constantly got to them blocks of how do we get bigger? How do we do more? And it wasn't just about profit, just about money, but it was also about how do you start getting back time? How do you start, I found myself constantly exchanging time for money, which after a while that proved a challenge to sort of try and correct and to try and evolve from.
It's really funny you say that, because my view of business as well was, like my dream when I first got sucked into business as a real business, because I thought, hey, if I start doing building jobs, because I was in a building trade, doing construction, we built some houses, I'd worked on some big sites as a contractor, so I kind of seen how all that worked. But then I thought, building a business was me just going out doing jobs by myself. But very quickly, like you say, you realize that that's just still trading the time for the money. But then when I got into business, I went totally, from one extreme to another. I went into the IT industry. Yeah. And this was at a point, this is no joke. Yeah, I could literally probably only, I didn't even know what Microsoft Word was. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know it existed. Yeah, obviously I could turn it on and I had to press a button and watch a thing come on and log in on a, with a password. I get that. But beyond that, I didn't know. So I went into this industry, but then that's when I really learned about business and how you got to then market research and train and all of this. And that's how I went to training, and that totally changed everything. Meaning, like every business I went into, I just focused on training people. Even when I was recruiting team members, I was training them, like, and to test them how good they are or how trainable they are before we hired them. And here's the killer bit where people don't realize this in business. We were training the clients on how to buy, especially with like SaaS products, which is like software as a service. It's hosted in the cloud. There's no, delivery happening, like where people are like, oh yeah, we know that this is worth something because something's being dropped off. This was, no, we're logging in on a screen and just what I said, like, what we're paying, £20,000 for this. What is this? So that, you training how, training the client on how to buy. That's why I say training changed everything for us, and me. But if I just go back to this whole training at the time for money, I was like, I want to have this company where I have like 1,000 salespeople, because the whole thing was selling ethically and being real. That's how real life was born. When I was training sales and I was just in the training room with people and people are trying to be someone else. And I'm like, just be yourself. Just be real. This is real life. And that's how real life sales training was born. And then the real life brand, as you know, has expanded since. But at that point, I thought, 90 hours a week. I'm happy working 90 hours a week. I thought it was normal to go to work before my children wake up and they be in bed before I get back. And then I spend some time here and I spend some time there. And like, they will be inspired by watching their, dad, want to provide for them and all the rest of it. And slowly I started to realize, and that started unfolding, that what kind of life is that? I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still weeks, as you know, because you were a part of some of it. I still put 90 hours in, happily. I don't mind putting an 18-hour shift in, here and there. But like today, after we've just done the 3-day event, the 3-day virtual event for Property Secrets Exposed, today was like what I call an unplug day. And I suppose what you were saying is, you get to that stage where it's like, I'm running this business, but I'm scared to have a day off, or I'm scared to go on holiday for a week, because I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, how did you handle that?
Terribly. You know what? I think like you said, is you get to that point where you kind of, you're just exchanging so much. In the pursuit of the two values that I've always sort of lived by is sort of ambition and integrity. And what I was starting to find was that as my ambition was growing and I was putting more and more in, and I was obviously seeking more success and more profit and more money, I was losing my integrity in other areas, at home. And I started to put a lot of pressure then on as I said, life's not just about money, right? I was suffering, my happiness was down, and I was sacrificing, as I said to you before we started, like, I used to sleep in the office. Some of my staff really even know that. I'd sleep in the office some nights, and the graft that I was putting into this vehicle as an estate agency, in a pursuit of scale and ambition, it was incredible. I was giving it absolutely everything. I suppose the turning point for me, was becoming a parent. Was becoming a dad to my little boy, and it was I was losing too much, and after a point in time, certain things, certain switches were flicked, and made the decision to sort of evolve, the model and evolve into a bigger, much better, much more exciting vehicle, which delivered scalability and also a lot more freedom.
Yeah. So what's that vehicle?
Well, property investing, property, effectively, developing your own portfolio, and I was doing over years as an estate agent, I saw some of my biggest and best clients. They were so successful, and started to really turn for me when I'd been an estate agent by this point for like 10 years, and I had these clients of mine that were developing for 10 years, and the difference at where we were. And I couldn't understand why. I was like, I'm working hard. You know, we had a great business, and I got to a point where I was, you know, peed off. You know, I was frustrated. There was a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, and again, I think I was back to what I said about, you know, I was lacking knowledge fundamentally. And then, you know, started sort of, you know, they were the sort of guys that I was aspiring to be. And I mentioned before about, you know, Richard Branson, Alan Sugar, and, you know, a lot of other people, entrepreneurs, have started to do a lot of research into. And again, that just, you know, property asset, property wealth, property portfolio, just kept coming up. So that was the first time really where I then started to sort of look into property investing. And I thought, look, there's a lot of information, you know, around, you know, nowadays. You know, some of it's free, you know, often it's worth paying for. And I just made the commitment. I need to figure out what these guys are doing. You know, I need to figure out how these people are doing it. And similarly, you know, I had my agency, which was great. But then I started, you know, sort of, you know, getting into sort of, you know, property developing a little bit as a side hustle. But then I saw the people that were doing it full time. You know, people like yourself, you know, other sort of inspirational people around, like, were flying, absolutely flying. And again, I started to realize that there was exchanging a lot of time into the primary vehicle that I had. It was just kind of all I knew. I'd come through the ranks as an estate agent, so that was where my knowledge was. And I was seeing the guys that had gone on to invest in themselves and invest in their own sort of property investment education were just, you know, absolutely flying. And again, it wasn't just about the money, it was about the lifestyle that these guys were, you know, guys and girls were creating for themselves. You know, the lifestyle, you know, the freedom, effectively, right? Because as I say, it's not all about the money, it's about the freedom, you know, first and foremost for me. So that was really why I got into property in the first place. That's really, well, you know, that's my view of business, you know, from the outset, you know, is having time as well as money. And, you know, realized that, you know, there was a bigger game being played. So yeah, you know, that's how I got into it.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on, because there's been a question in the comments here. Someone's asking, Claudia is asking about business, systems, and VAs as well. So we are going to touch on that, but there's something else that you just mentioned. Free things, like, you know, you can get hoodies, you can get cups, merchandise, yeah, useful things that you can use every single day from the real life shop. So all you need to do is share this post on your timeline and tag 10 people in these comments right here. Yeah. Also, I want you to put hashtag live if you're watching it live right now, and put hashtag replay if you are watching a replay. So the good point that you just made there is when you was making the comparison of saying, what are these guys doing different to me? I'm working hard. I'm putting the shift in. I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything I can. And this is the invisible line that is right there. It's almost like, you know, one of those mimes where it's like, there's nothing there. And they're like, how do I get past this? What is this like level of income, or like, you know, like the volcano's rumbling, but there's no eruption happening, you know, and it's that's there, and it's invisible. Because I did the same thing. I was working day in, day out. I was like, yeah, this is how I'm gonna do. You know, maybe my simpleness, I don't know, I think I was a bit simple when I was a kid. Maybe I'm still simple now, yeah, but like maybe that was just like made me a little bit naive to just remain optimistic, because I never knew how I was going to do it, you know, be in business. But I always imagined when I was a kid, and some of these things what I knew worked for me as a kid, I've like introduced into products and different trainings now, because I always imagine, I used to get these vouchers out of the paper that were like £400 worth of vouchers you could get off at DFS, the sofa company, right? But I used to have this money and I used to pretend it was mine. I was like, I'm getting paid this money. And then I would just keep paying myself, and I'd spend it, and I'd pay myself, and I'd spend it, and I'd pay myself. Yeah. And I started creating like this whole world. It sounds a bit weird. I never really wanted to admit it before, but now I'm proud of it. Yeah. Because I created this whole world where I was in business, and I had all these different businesses. And that kind of was like this positive expectation, or this, optimism that just kept me like, I don't know how it's going to work out, but something's going to work out. Something's going to work out. Something's going to work out. And I was working hard. And it wasn't until really the property investing for me got me to see how I can make things work without me. Because even when I was training sales team, and I grew a couple of companies in the IT industry from nothing to multi-million-pound global organizations very quickly as well. One in 18 months, one in less than 3 years. But I was always there. I couldn't see me replacing myself. But with property, going from when I was 15 years old, going into the industry properly. I mean, I worked with my dad when I was like, 12 and 10, but not seriously, but 15, full-time working 5 days a week, changed it to 7 days a week. That kind of being on the tools, again, can't see how I'm going to replace myself, to property investing, bringing systems in and building teams and leveraging, which is everything that we just taught over the last 3 days that blew people's minds, is then I can see how I can do it without me having to be there, and how I can do it with such a, like I made a call that took me about 10 minutes on Friday on the training. Yeah. The guy called me back this morning. He actually woke me up because I was having a lie-in, but he called me back, and we did a bit more to and fro in. Offer accepted, 10-minute call, another 5-minute call, another 10 minutes and that. So what are we talking? 25 minutes. 25 minutes. We've got ourselves £1,300, 6-bed cash flowing building. In 6 weeks, everything's going to be turned around, and it's going to be hunky dory. This, and then, the build team's going to do it. The project manager's going to run it. Like I've got other team members that help sort all the paperwork out. So it just gets passed to me, so I can just put my name on it. So like all of these different systems that get put in place. But I didn't know about any of this before. I was doing what you were doing, just training time. And Andy, how many other people are still doing this now? Even because we're saying, hey, property industry, it's opened us up to realize this. But I didn't realize it before. And so many other people, they're struggling in property. They go into property and they've still got this, this invisible wall that they're still putting in all of the time. Like, what am I doing? Like, what is this guy doing? And then I tell you what happens you stay in that zone long enough, the zone where, why are they doing it and I'm not? Then you start blaming. It's hard not to, because you start, oh, they're scam, they're full of shit, they're showing off, that ain't real, all of this garbage starts setting in, and your little voice starts going crazy. Then you're going in the wrong, that's a downward spiral. So what would you say to these people? What's your view on what this invisible line is? Because again, you went into business, you hit all these walls, you went into property, and then it wasn't until later when you came to an event so like, what changed for you? What's the difference? What was the difference for you that helped you get past that invisible wall?
Oh, great question. I mean, for me, like I was lying to myself, man, so much. And I think you said at the start, right? Like with the first event that you saw me out, I looked like I wasn't really interested, and like I was telling myself so much shit. You know what I mean? Like, and really what it was a reflection of me. I was frustrated in my business, and I suppose I saw myself as I was failing in my primary business. And although I'd done some property investing, set up as a side hustle, like my primary was kind of, I said it created this failure, and I couldn't understand how other people were doing it, and I think that there was a lot of my own projections of what I thought success was. That was what was I was in my own way, effectively. My sort of little voice, my negative perception of why I wasn't where I thought I could be or should be, or why was I putting in all these hours and not getting the returns that I was expecting or felt that I should get. And just, you know, I said, and then, you know, I come to one of your events, and I'm sure that was probably hanging over me now, looking back in hindsight, you know, and I couldn't really I was struggling to buy into success at that stage of my life, you know, because I didn't feel successful at all. And I think what changed for me was just some of the contents and some of the quotes, you know, like I remember I saw this one quote around the time, man, it just blew my whole mind. And it was, I can remember it was along the lines of, you know, I'd just become a parent not too long before that. And the quote was, you know, like some parents will go broke for their kids, but won't get rich for them. And bro, when I heard that, I was just like, wow, you know, the sort of the air of responsibility for me to become a success for my family and for my friends and for my community and for my colleagues and for my teams and for the people that I work with, it just hit me stone cold. And I spent a good few days thinking about that, and and then I think that then was a turning point for me, which I think things started really changing. And you know, your content has been incredible for me, and it's really helped me transform things. And I think the biggest turning point for me was getting a coach. Getting a coach just completely transformed my whole life, because what coaching done for me was it. My coach helped me move out of my own way. You know, I had a lot of knowledge, but I wasn't applying it. And then I was getting even more knowledge, you know, through your tribe, through your training, you know, other content. I was getting a lot of information, a lot of inspiration, but I wasn't applying it like I should have been. And, you know, my coach, and then it just so happened at the same time COVID hit. And so my primary business was kind of, you know, was blowing open. My side hustle was, I was in no man's land, and I had all this kind of negative energy about me, which was not just affecting my professional life, but it was affecting my personal life, you know, in a big way. And as I said, my coach really started to, you know, do work with my coach, and really helped me, you know, tune into what I really wanted. I was really passionate about in life, and he really kind of helped me, get motivated to do what, you know, I felt was my duty. You know, I felt like success was my duty at that stage. You know, I had a little boy, and I said family and friends, community, you name it. And then once he started helping me unlock some of the lies that I've been telling myself, and some of the doubt and the fear, you know, there was a lot of stuff that I was, you know, and you know me, like I could be quite a big character. I don't often let on to weakness, but there was a lot in there. And my coach just helped me smash through some of my limiting beliefs. And that really was the turning point 12 months ago, where, you know, I was on the floor in many respects. And just through hard work, dedication, and inspiration, motivation, you know, managed to completely transform my life.
And you so well done on that, and thank you for sharing that and being so open about it.
Thank you.
And what came to view while you were saying that is because it's totally invisible, you know, coaching, for two reasons. One, there's a lot of people, and there's no disrespect to these type of people, but they're not coaches. You know, either they're a mentor because they're going to say, I'll coach you because I've done it before. That's not coaching, that's a mentor. Or they've kind of had some training, not applied it themselves, but they want to, you know, try and tell you how to do it. Because the fear is, you know, what to do. Everybody knows what to do. It's not difficult. You know, I don't need to go on a training course to know how to be in shape. You know, I know how to be in shape. You know, do some press ups, run about a bit, don't eat garbage. You know, it's not difficult. Yeah, but still, I have a trainer. I have a personal trainer that trains me, and I've like, oh man, the time's coming around. You know, if I'm like 30 seconds, I class. If I'm supposed to be there at 1 o'clock, I class, you know, the 1:01. It's like that's too late. Yeah, that's too late. Yeah, so like if I'm 30 seconds and I still ain't logged on yet, it's like, are you there? Are you there? Are you there? Yeah. And so I'll be honest, you know, some days if he's not there saying that, I'll be like, yeah, not today. Yeah, but when I got someone there, give me that push, then you know, that don't happen. I got to do it. So coaching though, without coaching, or even when coaching starts to happen, world-class coaching, like real coaching, not this whole mentoring, you know, not real coaching. It's like, you imagine like you got wax has been dripped all over your body. Now there's going to be parts of it that are totally solid and you just can't move. Yeah, because it's, you know, gone solid. But like the bits that you move more often, so, you know, people who go out, they do communicate, they'll kind of do their job to a certain extent. You know, those bits, they're a bit more flexible. Yeah, but you're still restricted. And what real coaching does is start to really peel those layers off. They don't just come off in one go. There's these different trainings and different experiential things, as you know, and have experienced, that totally blow that stuff away. But then the continued thing of like pulling back these layers could even be like, say, like an onion, right? You know, like layers and layers. And those layers that you're pulling off, they are layers of falseness and they are lies, like you were saying this. And it is a hard thing until you realize how powerful it is to admit truth and untruth. But it's a hard thing to admit it because we've told ourselves those stories for so long. It's like, I can't go back on it now because I've told myself, you know, but like the reality, as you know now, is like, it's insane. I can't, why did I even go on for this long? You know, so there's a big difference here, you know, between like what real coaching actually is. And like you say, you go and get all the knowledge in the world. Just like over the last 3 days, I was telling people blatantly, I'm like, look guys, I'm gonna give you all the knowledge. You ask any questions, loads of times to debrief, ask questions, get the technical data, the strategies, where to invest, what to invest, numbers, getting things. I showed you how to do it on there. You know, again, with like half the amount of participants, by the way, as last time. We had like 1.2 million pounds we raised last time. With half the amount of people, we still raised 995k. Yeah, wow. In 20 minutes. This is a 20-minute exercise. This is a 20-minute exercise. So it's insane to have the knowledge and then the coaching and the framework and the environment. Like you're saying, I love London, I love Canary Wharf. Yeah, because it's your environment. It's like your pitch, it's your playing field. Like the footballer walks onto the pitch, boom, they're in their zone. You know, walk down the streets of London, bam, you're in the zone. Yeah, absolutely. So that's really what it comes down to. So we've got a couple of questions here. Let's have a look at it. First, I just want to quickly address the systems and the VA thing. Yeah, so I want to say something and I want your opinion on it, because the way I see this, I don't have any virtual assistants, but I'm not against them. But the only reason I don't have virtual assistants is because my method is the homegrown. I want homegrown talent. You know, we build business with two types of people who are leaders and people who are team members. Yeah, leaders, this is like, you're here to grow and be the entrepreneur inside our businesses, inside the brand, because the brand's unlimited. You know, we're opening a bank. You know, that's going to take a lot of resources. There's going to be a lot of leaders. There's going to be a lot of team members. Team members are the ones that they might be happy doing a certain role for the rest of their life, or, you know, it might even be a stepping stone for them, or, you know, it's not, you know, it's just like they're going to come and contribute. These team members, they want to learn, but like our retention rate for our crew, team, staff, whatever you want to call them, is very high, just because I've been in so many businesses where I messed it up so many times. I kind of, you know, ironed a few things out. So I would like think a VA for me is never ever going to be anyone that can grow within my organization. And I want the growth. I want a return on investment. You know, like Richard Branson says, I follow it. He says, you know, train people well enough so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't. Because the other saying is, oh, but what if I do put all my time, money, because I spend money. I mean, we're a training company, but I still pay for external training, you know, from other providers to train my team. So I don't have to, yeah, but also we keep getting the continued outside expertise. Yeah, and they say, oh, but what if I spend all this time and money, yeah, and they leave? And I love the quote because it says, well, what if I don't train them and they stay? Yeah, that's worse. That's worse. What's your view on the whole VA, teams, recruiting, all of that?
I completely agree. Like, I don't have VAs, but I just feel that there's enough systems and technology and that you can automate so much now. You know, like there's so much technology around us that you can automate like so much of business. It's exciting. It's rewarding. But ultimately, you know, look, people make the world go round, right? And of course, you know, there's a person element to a VA, of course, but like yourself, like, I much prefer to have an impact with someone and actually to help somebody grow and help somebody get to that level where, like you said, you know, they're self-sufficient. And as somebody that has gone on to start my own business when I was previously employed, like, it would be nonsensical for me to say or have some sort of view that, oh, well, I only want someone to get to a certain point. You know, I want my people to be leaders. I want my people to, and, you know, like, dozens and dozens and dozens of people that I've trained throughout my whole career have gone on to be managers, have gone on to, you know, be business owners. You know, I've gone on to have, you know, responsibility, and several have done way better than me. So, you know, I'm a big believer in that. You know, I think the payoff that you get from investing with someone that you work with closely every day as part of your team, the reward, not even financially, of course there is some financial gain, but the spiritual and the emotional payback that you get from helping someone achieve something that, you know, you could just take a little slice of credit for. You know, ultimately it's the person's success that you're celebrating, you're helping to promote, but it's a very, very rewarding feeling helping someone, I suppose, you know, follow in your footsteps and, as I said, almost outperform you eventually. So I agree with you entirely on that one, Mark.
Awesome. Yeah, it's all about the people, training the people, and, you know, having the longevity. I'm willing to put the time in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to quick fire, yeah, because there's a few questions here. I want to quick fire them, yeah. So cool. Here's the first one. So Gamal is saying, Andy, what was the biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge was breaking through my own fears, my own doubts. That was my biggest challenge for sure. And again, come back to coaching, motivational content, getting a good morning routine, killer, writing my goals down every day, unbelievable transformation when I started doing that. So pushing outside of my own comfort zone, that was the biggest challenge for sure for me.
Yeah, awesome.
And still is.
Next question is a bit long, so let me read the whole thing out for you. So, question: what would Andy say to his younger self if he was setting up an estate agent today to run it effectively? What are the pitfalls to avoid?
Make sure you want to be an estate agent. I think the day I set my company up, I said I want to do it a bit differently. I don't want to be a traditional estate agent, and I think that was my downfall day one. So don't start something that you're not completely bought into and that can immerse yourself in as a concept. That will be my biggest advice. If you enjoy it and you see yourself being the next Foxtons or Countrywide or whatever it might be, then great, do it. If you don't, then hire an estate agent.
Yeah, good. And we have an interesting comment here as well. So let's just have a look at this. Let's put our thoughts into this. So, even harder to admit in a world where everyone's expected to portray themselves perfectly on social media. So I want to get your view on it, but I just want to say this. I want to be a little bit controversial. Like, who said you're expected to portray themselves perfectly? Is that a rule that I missed that was written down, Laurie? I'm just saying, I mean, I get where you're coming from and I understand. It's like, you know, people put this stuff out there. That's why I love this kind of live interview style, because there's no editing, there's no cutting it to make it look good. We say what we say and that's it. Yeah. So what's your view on that, Andy?
I actually have some empathy for the comment, in the sense of I think that's a society's bred a culture like that. You know, there are a lot of people that feel like that you can't be honest with on social media, that you can't show the truth, that you can't show the flaws, the pitfalls, that you can't, you know, be vulnerable. You know, society has bred a beast with social media, and I do believe that it's going to take leadership to sort of change that ethos slightly. My view on it is that, you know, we spoke about the truth. You know, the first person you have to be honest with is yourself. Like, you know, like and self-development, and as I mentioned, coaching, and you know, that sort of life is a constant sort of journey of self-discovery, right? And I think that, you know, through that sort of work, it's allowed me to be a lot more open and a lot more honest with myself and therefore people on social media and people around me, because it's just like the Matrix. When you take that blue pill and you start being honest with yourself, like you're in a whole new like world. You can't go back to being, to having these boundaries and these walls, so my belief is just is exactly that. Honesty is the only way. There's true power in being honest with yourself, and I think that really shines through as well when you hear someone speak.
Yeah. So as you know from some of the training that we've done and that we've done together, like truth is at the top of the funnel, right? If we say top of the funnel is where we get in, enlightenment, total appreciation, the gratitude, the thankfulness, the abundance. Truth is at the top. So like the more truth there is, the more in the zone you're going to be, the more powerful you're going to be, the more life force you have available, because any falseness, if you're going down, there's less truth. The falseness is tying up your power, to keep it down, to hide it, and it's interesting why I love the city so much, because that's why I love being out here. Obviously you've been here before, this is like total, nothing, it's in the middle of nowhere. Is because there's so many people in cities. It's like a compression of there's so many people walking around that don't want you to know something. Yeah. And they don't want to know either. And they're okay staying in that place of, I don't know that I don't know. Because if I admit that I don't know, now I've got to do something about it. But if I don't know that I don't know, then I'm okay. And if I find more people that also don't want to know, then I'm good too. Because now we can just pretend we don't know that we don't know together. And that happens a lot in cities. There's compression, and maybe if you're there all the time, I'm not sure if you feel the difference. But next time you come here, just feel, or just feel, because I know you can feel now. You can feel what happens in the city, and then what it feels like here. It's like, wow, the space, the space that's there. So that's good. So what else we got coming up here? Here we go. So Richard, what are you saying here? But there is a lot of great coaches, real life coaches, Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Harv Eker. You can be trained to become a certified qualified coach, either real life ever coach or Tony Robbins coach. So I thank you for bringing that up, because again, training to say certified coach, like what does that mean? I don't know. I can't say for anyone else, because I've never even looked at anyone else. But what I do know is what it takes to be a world-class coach, and having helped people achieved making millions, having personal satisfaction, soul satisfaction, put together a certification that you yourself and Andy have been through, and you didn't know what was going on even all the way through, right, even to the end. And when we get to the end, really, it's only the beginning, so. And it's ongoing. So to say that certified coach, first of all, anybody who comes with us, they've already got to be a high contributor. They've already got to have results that their own personally, business wise, property wise. Not because so they can be a mentor, but so they are understanding the frameworks to which we then teach, that like, oh, this is how. And by the way, also people have been coached for a minimum of a year as well. By us. It used to be, if you want to come as a certified coach, you had to be coached by me. But obviously that wasn't scalable after a certain point. So now you have to be coached. And that's even just to be invited to a call to talk about it. We just got to talk about it. By that time, most people and other people may have gone through, like a time certificate. Like if you put the time in, you're certified. You know what I mean? But like this isn't time. This is results based. Thing. So great point there. And Richard is asking, is a Mark Bank? It's not Mark Bank. It's going to be a real life bank of some name of that effect. Is it for anyone else to use? Do you know who it's going to be for to use, Richard? People, number one, who want to get loans for their property investment business. That's where primarily we're going to start out, because we'll know how to only lend to really real trained people. But also, it will be a bank where people can put their money, but they actually, it's useful for them. Like they're going to get the paid, 5, 10, 15, 20% on their money. A real bank, right now, the banks that are out there, I love them on how they allow me to transfer money at the button. Yeah, that's great. And we will have that facility. But right now, if you want to put money in a bank, it's like a compost heap. Like you're putting your money in a compost heap, it's just rotting away. Yeah. So that's what I would say about that. Anything to say on those items, Andy?
I suppose the thing that you mentioned about coaching, when you're talking about world-class coaching, and I think it just comes back to what we were saying about being honest, being open. I mean, because I suppose the quote that springs to mind is, give a man a fish, versus teach a man how to fish, right? You give a man a fish, he's okay for a day. When you teach him to fish, he's okay for a lifetime. And I think that's what coaching's been for me, is that the process of coaching in helping me become more honest and open with how I feel and why I do what I do. And that process is effectively has helped me learn how to process, my negativity and also how to harness my positivity. And in a nutshell, that they're lessons that I'll have for life now. And that's before you even start talking about legacy. How you're going to have an impact on the people around you. What sort of legacy you might leave. So coaching for me, world-class coaching is exactly that. It's just honesty and integrity, and I think that's the real power of coaching.
Absolutely, good stuff. Let's touch on this. Yeah. So, what value or personal trait are you most grateful for? What a question.
Oh, great question, Linda. I've said it a lot, but honesty. I think the power of truth. Not being afraid to be honest with myself, the people around me. And maybe I'll probably say the only other one I'll say is maybe the gift of like maybe leadership. I'm not afraid to impart my opinion in the pursuit of of positive truth, and I don't. I've never had a problem challenging the status quo if I felt that it was for the betterment of people. And again, it comes back to honesty, right? Like I'm honest that I genuinely want the best for others. So it helps that trait, complements that trait wonderfully. How about yourself, Mark? I'd be interested to hear your answer to that question.
Yeah, I'm quite excited to answer it, and I want to answer it exactly the way it's been asked. First of all, which is what value or personal trait am I most grateful for? I would say the one I'm most grateful for, because it helps me in the most situations, would be the trait of like this optimism, or the trait of I don't have to know the answer, but I just know it's going to work out. Whatever that trait is, I don't know if it's called optimism, whatever that trait is, whatever you want to call that trait of, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to work out. I just know it is. Even when everything seems like it's, falling down around me, burning, setting fire, everyone's out to get me. That's what it feels like. Those dark times, I'm like, this is happening perfectly. I don't feel like it right now, but I know something amazing is going to come out of it. So that for me, that's what I would say most, because it helps me in the most situations. But I think also what helps me a lot, especially in business, especially with teams, especially with the line of work that I put myself in, is like selflessness. Like to be able to be non-biased, which is actually what you're saying. You were saying, integrity and honesty, which is to be in the truth, because the truth is what it is, not what I want it to be. And I'm
Absolutely.
I'm pretty good at just being selfless about it. Like there's a part of me that knows it would be easy to take advantage of authority or power that I have in some positions and make it go in my favor, but I just have this anchor to stay in the middle, like to be balanced. Like I don't know I don't want to do that because it's going to bite me later, number one. Law of attraction, karma, whatever you want to call it. That's number one. But number two, I'm just into doing what feels right. And what feels right is just doing the right thing. And that's why I have that saying, do the right thing for the right reason. I have that saying. So I tell myself every day, I mean, it's a good punchline. I get it, but that's what it is. What we got here? When you're dishonest with yourself, you're disconnected from reality. You're going to make poor decisions. You're going to drop out of the moment, and you're going to be less happy. Yeah, it's good. And it's funny, the choice of words, Wayne, you say there, because reality, if you look at the definition of reality, or really what reality is based on agreement. So that's most people's difficult part, because if they're dishonest, but there is an agreement with the dishonesty, because that's what people do. They're like, oh, this guy, he did this to me. He's wrong, isn't he? And they're like, oh, yeah, blimey, I can't believe they did that. Now you just created a reality, because reality is based on agreement. So now, in your eyes, it is true. I mean, it's not, because truth is what it is, but you've made it what you want it to be, which is now your reality. That's why in most cases people are like, oh, it's destruction, the world, this and that. And I'm like, that's your reality. That's not my reality. It's not, I don't look at it like that. Yeah. And that's also what a coach helps you do. Get out of trying to get agreement. Well, this is what we're training ourselves to do. It's like, you got to spot that, because you got to interrupt that pattern they're in, because they're trying to make an agreement here and they're going to go downhill. What's your view on that?
I completely agree. It's about breaking those sort of chains of, of dishonesty in your own mind, which are often negative. So there's not too many empowering, lies that I've told myself. So the truth is empowering. And I think that's been my, the biggest part of my transformation for sure.
Yeah, awesome. And then this is a nice one to finish it off before last question from the viewers here, and then I got a question for you. Yeah, this is a nice one to finish off the viewers' questions. How do you like to celebrate your wins?
I've got really into physically celebrating my wins recently, because it changes your whole state, just completely transform you. It used to be material. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing better than sitting on the Italian Amalfi Coast with my wife, enjoying a glass of wine to celebrate a win. But in terms of just every day, every minute, once an hour, that's how I like to get it now. Just change the state and get into the moment. So how about you?
I have my own celebration anchor. I can't see an email of even £20, £1, £50, £100 coming into my bank or coming into my business, and not like, I train myself not to just say, oh yeah, okay, and take it for granted. And I'll tell you why, because I remember one time I was just doing something, and it was like in one night I made 15 grand in like 2 hours. And I was like, oh, I can't believe it. It's only 15 grand. Last time I did this. At that point, I was like, hello? Like, what are you doing? And that's when, we got it in our training. We got it in our culture. We got it in the coaches. It's like, you got to celebrate. It's our code of honor. You got to celebrate all wins. So I'm like, yes, I love it. I've got to celebrate, like, yes, like something like that. What I really like to celebrate? I love dancing. I love dancing. I love dancing with my kids. I'm celebrating with them. I love putting some music on and just busting some tunes out. And if you want to see some footage of the amazing celebrating that happened from Property Secrets Exposed, put hashtag dance in there, and we'll see about getting some of that footage out to you if enough of people ask for it. So we've got Real Life Tribe Mastermind coming up now. So before we send everyone off, and I ask you the last question, I want to thank you, Andy, for coming on here. We've had some nice questions and some nice things coming across. Usually I say, hey, listen, if we just inspire one person to do something, it's all been worth it. But I can already tell there's been many people that have been inspired already. So super, super fantastic. Thank you for being here. Real Life Tribe. You are welcome. Real Life Tribers, get over to the mastermind now. That's where we get all our value. We all come together, make sure we get the questions answered so you guys can hit it and win in life, in your property, and in your money. But before we go, it's something that's super, super important. I have to ask you this question, Andy. Yeah, because we can never let the people forget that they've got to do the right thing for the right reason. Now, why is that?
Because it's the only way to discover your true potential, baby.
Yeah, he said it good enough. You heard it. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you again next time.
See you guys.